The auction chamber drifted in dead space, far beyond any mapped star system. It was intentional. No laws reached here. No flags mattered, only credits and fear. The hall itself was colossal, tiered platforms circling a central stage of black alloy, illuminated by cold white beams. Thousands of species sat in silence, warlords with scarred exoskeletons, collectors with ancient eyes, mercenaries whose weapons hummed even at rest. They had come for many things. Weapons that could burn suns, artifacts older than empires, living trophies torn from conquered worlds, but tonight none of that mattered. All attention was fixed on Cage 7. The cage was small. Too small, many thought, for what it held. Energy bars shimmered faintly, layered with suppression fields so dense they bent the light around them. Inside sat a figure curled inward, not chained, not sedated, just waiting. She looked almost fragile, almost. Her skin bore a muted, unfamiliar hue, not the vibrant colors of noble species, not the dull grays of labor castes. Faint bioluminescent lines traced her arms and neck, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat struggling to remain calm. Her eyes stayed lowered, not in submission, in restraint. Whispers rippled through the chamber. That's her, the untamable, the one that wiped a strike fleet, a living disaster. No one used her name, no one ever did, because names implied control. The auction master, a tall, skeletal being wrapped in ceremonial plating, cleared its throat. Final item, it announced, voice amplified across the void. Specimen classified as exganal, origin sealed. Combat potential catastrophic, survival record unprecedented. A pause. Warnings have been issued, ownership voids all protections. The first bid came instantly, then another, then a surge. Numbers climbed beyond planetary ransoms, beyond the cost of wars. Yet with every increase, bidders dropped out, fear crept in, memories surfaced. Stories of crews found torn apart without breach marks, of containment labs erased down to molecular dust, of guards who went mad just standing near her cell. The bid slowed, then stopped. The final number hung in the air, high but not high enough. Silence fell. The auction master tilted its head. No further bids, no one moved, no one breathed. Then a sound echoed through the hall. Footsteps measured, calm, human. He wore no armor, no ceremonial markings, just a dark coat worn at the edges and eyes that had seen too much and flinched at nothing. A human. The murmurs turned sharp. A human. They let one in here. Is he insane? The man stepped forward. I'll take her. The chamber erupted, shouts in 100 frequencies, warnings, laughter. The auction master raised a clawed limb. Human, it said slowly, you understand what you are claiming. Yes, she has killed masters, broken bonds, destroyed containment. I know, she is not loyal. I'm not buying loyalty. The auction master leaned closer. Then what are you buying? The human looked at the cage. For the first time, the girl lifted her head. Their eyes met, and something shifted. I'm buying a choice, the human said. The hall went quiet. The auction master processed this. Transaction accepted, it finally declared. Ownership transferred, energy seals disengaged. The cage door slid open. No alarm sounded. No violence followed. The girl didn't move. She simply watched him, waiting for the chain, the shock collar, the command. None came. The human stepped inside the cage and sat down slowly, openly, his hands resting where she could see them. I'm not here to control you, he said quietly. I'm here to ask. Her pupils narrowed. No one had ever asked her anything. What? She whispered. Her voice was rough, unused, scarred by silence. Do you want to leave? The question hit harder than any weapon. Images flashed through her mind. Cells, handlers, screams, orders barked in alien tongues. Yes, she said. The word trembled. Then come with me, he replied. No cage. No leash. The hall watched in disbelief as she stood. Slowly, carefully, step by step, she exited the cage. Nothing exploded. No one died. The human turned to the auction master. She's not a monster, he said. She's what happens when the galaxy mistakes survival for evil. Security forces moved, weapons locked. Release her, the auction master demanded. She is now my responsibility, the human replied. The girl looked at him. Why? She asked. He met her gaze. Because I saw the same thing they all ignored, he said. What fear, he answered softly, and restraint. The guards hesitated. They had orders, but something in the room had changed. Later, much later, the galaxy would learn the truth. That the untamable alien girl was never uncontrollable. She was unbreakable. And the human, he didn't tame her. He listened. Together, they would dismantle black markets, expose hidden wars, free others like her. And when the council finally asked why humans were dangerous, this story became one of the answers. Because humans didn't fear monsters, they asked why they were created. The alarms did not scream immediately. That was the first mistake. Across the auction hall, dozens of security systems recalibrated, confused by what they were seeing. The Untamable had exited her cage without violence. No containment breach, no energy spike, no blood. That wasn't supposed to be possible. The human stood beside her, calm as if he'd just finished a trade negotiation instead of committing what many species considered a suicidal act. For a heartbeat, the galaxy hesitated. Then panic hit. Seal the hall, the order came from the upper tiers, where council observers sat hidden behind cloaking screens. Heavy blast doors began to descend, slicing the chamber into segments. Weapons powered up, targeting systems locked, not on the girl, on the human. She felt it instantly. The pressure in the air, the familiar tightening in her chest, danger, her muscles tensed. Bioluminescent lines along her arms flared brighter, reacting on instinct. The human noticed. "Hey," he said quietly without turning. "Breathe." She stared at him. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If they fire, I do," he interrupted gently, "and I'm still here." The first shot cracked through the air, not lethal. A warning pulse that scorched the floor inches from the human's boot. "Step away from the specimen," a security commander barked. "This is your final warning." The human raised his hands, slowly. "I paid," he said, "by your own rules. The rules end where extinction-level threats begin," the commander snapped. The girl's eyes darkened. This was always how it went. They panicked. They attacked, she survived, and everyone else paid. She took half a step forward. The human immediately shifted, placing himself between her and the firing line. "No," he said softly. "Let me." Her breath hitched. No one had ever done that. "You're making a mistake," he called out to the guards. "She hasn't harmed anyone." "Yet," came the reply. The hall shook. Not from her power, from incoming jump signatures. Multiple warp breaches, someone shouted. The bounty had gone live, fast. Pirate cruisers tore into real space, tearing through the auction station's outer ring. The black market didn't wait for paperwork. If a living weapon walked free, someone would try to steal it. Explosions rippled through the structure. Gravity flickered, screams echoed. The girl reacted instantly, moving to shield the human. "Stay behind me," she said. "No," he replied. He grabbed her wrist. Run, they ran. The corridors beyond the auction hall were chaos, smoke, flashing emergency lights, bodies scrambling in every direction. Automated turrets deployed from the ceiling, firing indiscriminately. A blast tore through the wall ahead. Debris rained down. She raised her arm and stopped. The human was hit. A shockwave threw him against the bulkhead. He slid to the floor, gasping, blood seeping through his coat. Her world narrowed. The lines along her skin flared violently, light surging, power clawing its way to the surface. This was the moment she always lost control. She felt it rise, the destruction. The certainty that if she let go, nothing here would survive. "Don't," he rasped. She froze. He was looking at her, not afraid, in pain, but present. "Please," he said, voice breaking. Choose. No handler had ever asked that. No commander, no scientist. They had demanded obedience, triggered fear, pulled levers. She exhaled. The light dimmed. She knelt beside him, lifting him carefully. "I can get us out," she said, "but it won't be clean." He smiled weakly. "Clean's overrated." She closed her eyes, focused, not on rage, on precision. Space folded, not torn, folded. The corridor stretched impossibly long, then collapsed inward. Reality bent around them like a held breath, and then they were gone. They reappeared aboard a small, battered freighter drifting beyond the station's sensor range. The human collapsed into the pilot's chair. She sealed the hatch behind them, hands shaking. For the first time in her life, she was free. Minutes passed in silence. She watched his chest rise and fall, slow, too slow. "You're dying," she said quietly. "Not my first time," he muttered. She placed her hand over his wound. Energy stirred, soft, controlled, not destructive, healing, something she'd never been allowed to try. "Why?" she asked again. Her voice was barely more than a breath. "Why me?" He met her eyes. "Because you didn't run when you could have killed everyone," he said. "And because monsters don't ask for permission to breathe." Something inside her cracked. Outside, the galaxy reeled. The auction station burned. The council issued emergency decrees. A human had broken protocol, a weapon had escaped, but what terrified them most was that she hadn't destroyed anything. She had chosen restraint, and she had chosen him. The freighter drifted in silence. No alarms, no pursuit, just the soft hum of damaged engines and the steady, fragile sound of a human breathing. She sat beside him, unmoving. Afraid that if she shifted even slightly, he would stop. She had healed wounds before, closed fractures, stopped bleeding, stabilized organs, but humans were different. Fragile in ways most species didn't bother to learn. She focused on his chest, guiding energy with precision she had never been trusted to use. Not force, not dominance, care. Minutes passed. Then his breathing evened out. Relief hit her like a delayed shockwave. She leaned back against the bulkhead, knees drawn to her chest. And for the first time since she could remember, there was nothing she had to do. "Hey." The word was barely a sound. Her head snapped up. He was awake, eyes half open, pale. Smiling like he'd just woken from a nap instead of surviving a station collapse. "You're terrible at resting," she said quietly. He chuckled, then winced. "Occupational hazard." She hesitated. Then asked the question that had burned in her since the auction. "What do humans call me?" He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Your species names things," she said. "Stars, ships." "Enemies." She looked down at her hands. "They took my name from me." Silence settled between them, not awkward, respectful. "What was it?" he asked gently. Her voice shook. "I don't remember." She closed her eyes, and the past opened. Cold. That was the first thing she remembered, not the cold of space, but sterile cold. Metal floors, white light. The kind that never dimmed. She was small. Not in age, she had already grown, but in understanding. They strapped her down because they were afraid. They told themselves it was necessary. Subject displays abnormal resilience. Energy output exceeds theoretical limits. Emotional response unpredictable. They never spoke to her, only about her. She learned pain before language. Learned that screaming made it worse. Learned that silence was safer. "There was a family once," she said softly. "I think." Her fingers curled into the fabric of the seat. "I remember hands. Warm ones," a voice that sang. Her breath caught. They burned them. He didn't speak, didn't interrupt, didn't fill the silence with reassurance. He let her remember. "They told me it was my fault," she continued, "that if I hadn't been different, they would have lived." Her eyes glowed faintly. "After that, they stopped pretending I was alive." Weapons testing. Containment trials, fear responses induced deliberately, each failure labeled as proof. Untamable. "That word," she whispered, "is not what I am." She looked at him. "It's what they couldn't control." He reached for her hand, paused, waited. She placed it in his. "I don't know your name," she said, "but you stood between me and guns." He smiled faintly. "It's Elias." She repeated it carefully. "Elias," as if tasting something precious. "I want a name," she said. "Then take one," he replied. "No one gets to decide that but you." She thought long. "My mother used to call me." She stopped, shook her head. "I don't remember the sound, just how it felt." "What did it feel like?" he asked. "Safe." He squeezed her hand. "Then start there." She exhaled. "I will choose one," she said, "when I am ready." Outside the viewport, stars drifted past, indifferent, ancient. Inside the freighter, something fragile was forming. Not ownership, not control, choice. And somewhere in the galaxy, scientists reviewed old footage. Council members whispered, because for the first time in recorded history, the untamable was speaking. And she wasn't angry. The galaxy noticed their silence. That alone was enough to cause panic. The auction station's black box finished compiling its report 3 hours after their escape. No casualties listed as accidents, no system failures. Just one line highlighted in red: subject acquired by human, status uncontained. Within minutes, emergency channels lit up, councils convened. Admirals argued, scientists whispered words they hadn't dared speak aloud in decades. She didn't rampage, that's impossible. She chose restraint, that's worse. Fear doesn't need proof. Only uncertainty. The bounty went live before consensus was reached, not a capture order, a termination clause, alive if possible, the notice read. Dead if necessary, reward more credits than most systems spent in a decade. Every hunter worth the name saw it. The freighter's sensors screamed first. Elias stirred, instantly alert despite his injuries. "What is it?" he asked. She didn't answer. She already knew. 3 ships, fast, armed, purpose-built for pursuit, not military, hunters. She felt the old instinct rise, the familiar pressure behind her eyes, the surge begging to be unleashed. This was the moment they always pushed her toward. "Hey," Elias said quietly. She looked at him. He wasn't afraid, not of her, of what this would cost her. "They're here for me," she said. He nodded. "I figured. You should leave," she added. "Detach the escape pod." "I'll draw them away." "No," flat, immediate. She blinked. "You don't understand." "I understand enough," he replied. "The galaxy already decided what you are." He met her gaze. "I won't." The ships closed in, weapons powered up. The hunters didn't hail. They never did. A voice crackled through open channel. "Human vessel, power down and release the asset." Asset. Elias leaned forward, voice steady. "She's not cargo." Static, then laughter. "You bought a weapon," the hunter replied. "Weapons don't get choices." Her hands trembled. Old memories clawed up, restraints, commands, the word compliance spoken like mercy. She could end this. She knew exactly how. One pulse, 3 ships, gone. She felt Elias' hand on her wrist. "Grounding present. If you fight," he said softly, "do it because you choose to, not because they force you." The hunters fired a warning shot. The freighter shuddered. Hull integrity dipped dangerously. Her breath came fast. This was the moment, not a test, a decision. She opened the comm. Her voice carried calm, clear. "I will not be returned." Silence. Then a response, colder than vacuum. "You don't get a say." She smiled, not cruel, certain. "I do now." She raised her hand, not toward the ships, toward the stars. Energy gathered but controlled. Focused, measured, not destruction. Demonstration, space bent, just slightly. Enough. The hunters' targeting systems went blind. Engines stalled. Weapons powered down, not destroyed, disabled. Shock rippled across the channel. "What did you do?" She lowered her hand. "I chose." Elias stared at the display. 3 ships drifting, helpless. No casualties, no explosions, just restraint. "They'll send more," he said. She nodded. "I know." "Are you scared?" he asked. She thought of the cage, the auction, the word untamable. "Yes," she said, then looked at him. "But I am not alone." Somewhere far away, council members watched the data feed. No catastrophic output, no rage signature, no loss of control, only precision. And that terrified them more than any monster ever had, because weapons don't hesitate, they don't protect, they don't choose mercy. She did. The council chamber was older than most stars. Built when fear was still honest. Now it was polished, ceremonial, designed to make lies sound reasonable. They neutralized 3 hunter vessels. The words echoed through the circular hall. A dozen species sat in silence. No cheers, no outrage, just calculation. "A controlled output," one counselor said carefully. "No casualties," another leaned forward. "That confirms sentience." Silence again. Then someone said the word no one wanted to own. "That makes her dangerous, because a weapon that thinks can refuse." "We cannot allow a narrative of coexistence," the High Arbiter declared. "Panic would spread, systems would defect." "So what do we tell them?" a delegate asked. The Arbiter didn't hesitate. "We tell them the human is controlling her." The lie slid into place easily, too easily. Elias learned the truth from a pirate broadcast, a shaky signal intercepted mid-drift. His face, blurred, redlined, appeared beside her silhouette. Human psychic dominance confirmed, alien subject remains a threat. She stared at the screen, expressionless. "They think I'm your weapon," she said. Elias clenched his jaw. "They're wrong. They think I'm dangerous because I chose restraint," she continued. A faint, humorless smile touched her lips. "Choice frightens them." He reached to shut off the feed. She stopped him. "No." She watched until the signal died. "They will come," she said calmly. "Not hunters this time." "The council," Elias finished. She nodded, then surprised him. I want to go to them. He turned. Are you insane? Maybe, she replied. But I'm done running. He studied her, not the power, the posture, the certainty. They won't listen, he said. She met his eyes. Then I won't speak to convince them. The approach to council space was slow, deliberate, a declaration. Escort ships arrived but didn't aim weapons. They didn't need to. The implication was enough. Inside the chamber, eyes followed her every step. Whispers rippled like static. Some saw a monster, others saw a miracle, most saw a problem. She stood alone at the center. No restraints, no guards. Elias watched from the gallery, barred by protocol but present by concession. State your designation, the arbiter commanded. She inhaled. For a moment the old fear flickered. Then it passed. I reject it, she said. Murmurs erupted. You will comply, the arbiter snapped. She lifted her chin. I am not untamable. I am not subject. I am not asset. She paused. Then spoke the word she had chosen in the quiet between stars. My name is Sarah. The chamber froze. Names meant lineage, identity, rights. That is not registered, a counselor objected. Sarah smiled. I did not ask permission. Gasps, outrage, fear. You will answer for the damage you've caused, the arbiter said. Sarah turned slowly toward the gallery, toward Elias. You taught me something, she said softly. That power without choice is just violence. She faced the council again. So I will answer. She raised her hands. Holograms bloomed, not destruction. Data, footage, the cages, the experiments, the families burned to justify funding. Every lie laid bare. You created the monster you feared, Sarah said quietly. And now you're afraid I stopped being one. Silence crushed the chamber. Not awe, not acceptance, realization, because if she wasn't a weapon, then the war crimes had no excuse. Elias felt it then. The shift, the galaxy wasn't afraid of Sarah. It was afraid of accountability. The silence didn't last. It never does. The arbiter rose slowly, ceremonial robes whispering against the floor. Sarah, it said, deliberately using her chosen name, a kindness sharpened into a blade. You have confirmed our worst fears. Murmurs spread, not outrage, relief. You are self-aware, the arbiter continued. Capable of independent judgment, capable of influence. It paused. That cannot be allowed. Sarah felt it then, not anger, grief. By unanimous emergency protocol, the arbiter declared, you are to be terminated, effective immediately. Elias stood. Guards moved instantly, hands on weapons. No, he said, one word, useless. Sarah turned toward him just once, a look meant to calm him, to thank him. Do not, she whispered across the chamber. Energy fields snapped into place around her. Containment tech new, desperate, brutal. It hurt, not physically, existentially. The council didn't look at her. They never do when they pull the trigger. The execution beam charged. And then a ship decloaked inside the chamber's exclusion zone. Impossible, alarms screamed. Another followed, then another. Different designs, different species, unified trajectory. A voice cut through every channel, calm, controlled, human. This is Captain Reyes of the Free Colonies. Static cleared. We reject your verdict. Elias stared. Sarah's breath caught. A second voice joined, then a third. She saved us. You lied to us. You will not kill her in our name. The chamber erupted. Counselors shouted. Security scrambled. The arbiter slammed its staff. You dare defy galactic law, Reyes replied evenly. No, a pause. We're rewriting it. Weapons powered up, not firing, waiting. Sarah felt the containment field weaken, not from her power. From permission, Elias tore free as guards hesitated. He ran straight toward the field. Elias, she shouted. He didn't slow. I choose you, he said simply. The field shattered, not violently. Like glass given a reason to break, Sarah caught him as he fell. The chamber froze. You cannot leave, the arbiter hissed. You will destabilize the galaxy. Sarah looked up, eyes steady. Then maybe it needs to be. She raised one hand. The execution beam collapsed. Power rerouted. Systems overloaded. She did not strike. She ended the moment. Ships outside held position, waiting. Watching, Sarah lifted Elias, carried him through the center of the chamber. Every eye followed. No one stopped her, because laws are fragile things. And they had just learned she wasn't afraid of theirs. As they boarded the waiting ship, Elias whispered, What happens now? Sarah gazed out at the stars, at allies she never asked for, at enemies who finally saw her clearly. Now, she said softly, we stopped surviving. They didn't chase her, that was the first warning. Sarah's ship slipped into the dark between systems, engines throttled low, shields humming like a held breath. No missiles, no pursuit, no alarms. Elias watched the star map in silence. They're letting us go, he said. Sarah nodded. They're deciding how to use us, because killing her would have made a martyr, letting her live made a movement. The first message arrived 3 hours later. Encoded, civilian banned, thank you for surviving, that was all it said. Then another, and another, refuge fleets, broken colonies. Species the Council had erased from records. They weren't asking for war, they were asking for proof. She means something to them, Elias said quietly. Sarah stared at the growing list. I never wanted this, no one ever does, he replied. That's why it works. The Council moved next, not with weapons, with language. Across the galaxy, new laws appeared overnight. Human-alien interaction restrictions, unregistered hybrid research, banned symbolic entities, classified as extremist influence. Elias read them twice. They're afraid of ideas now. Sarah closed her eyes. They always were. A week passed, then a system fell, not destroyed, defected. A mining ring publicly declared Sarah a protected being. Refused Council oversight, broadcast her words on loop. The Council responded instantly. Sanctions, blockades, hunger. Elias slammed his fist into the console. They're starving civilians to prove a point. Sarah stood very still, then she sat down. I won't let them suffer for my name, she said. You didn't cause this. No, she replied. But I can stop it. She recorded a message, one take, no edits. I am Sarah, she said. I do not ask you to follow me. She breathed in. I ask you to live. She told defected systems to stand down. To open supply lanes, to survive quietly. The feed cut. Silence filled the ship. Elias looked at her. You just gave up your leverage. She smiled sadly. I gave up my weapon. That night Elias found her in the observation deck, curled up, smaller than the galaxy wanted her to be. They'll twist it, he said. They always do, I know. She didn't look up. They'll say I ran. He sat beside her. They'll say whatever keeps them in power. She turned to him, voice barely above a whisper. Am I still a monster to them? Elias didn't hesitate. No. Then why does it still hurt? He reached for her hand. Because she let him. Because you wanted them to choose better. Outside, stars burned without caring who ruled them. Sarah watched them. They made me into a symbol, she said. But I'm still just me. Elias squeezed her hand. Then let's protect that. A new alert chimed, encrypted, priority. Sarah opened it, her breath caught. Council Black Fleet mobilizing destination. Human colonies. Elias stood slowly. They couldn't break you. Sarah rose with him, eyes hard now. They won't punish me. She turned toward the stars. Toward home, they'll punish you. The Black Fleet didn't announce itself. It never did. Human colonies noticed the silence first. Trade relays went dark. Navigation buoys vanished. Then stars started disappearing behind shadowed hulls. Elias watched the tactical feed in disbelief. That's not a blockade, he whispered. That's an execution line. Sarah felt it in her bones. The same cold certainty she'd felt in the cage, the moment when captors stopped pretending. They're not coming for me, she said. They're sending a message. On every human world the same broadcast followed, the Arbiter's voice, smooth, righteous, lethal. Shelter the anomaly and humanity will be erased. Deliver her and peace will be restored. Elias turned toward her. They're offering you up like a tax. Sarah didn't answer. She was already shaking, not with fear, with rage held too tightly. They think I'll let you bleed for me, she said. He stepped closer. They think wrong. Human command councils fractured within hours. Some argued survival. Others argued honor. Most argued quietly, terrified of being recorded. One message cut through all of it. Unencrypted public human, we don't trade people. Sarah watched the transmission spread, colony by colony, ship by ship. They're choosing war, Elias said. No, she replied. They're choosing each other. The Black Fleet fired first, a warning strike. A city evaporated, no military target, just civilians. Elias screamed her name as the feed cut. Sarah didn't cry. She stood, every light in the room dimmed. I won't be their excuse, she said, and I won't be their mercy. She walked to the comm platform, opened every channel, every species. Every frequency the council tried to own. My name is Sarah, she said calmly. I was created to end wars. A pause. They taught me how. The council jammed the signal. She pushed through. I will not rule you, she continued. I will not save you. Her eyes hardened. But I will stand with those who refuse to kneel. Behind her, human ships powered up, old freighters, retrofit miners. Civilian hulls filled with terrified volunteers. Elia stared. They came for you. She looked back at him. No, she took his hand. They came because someone told them they were worth more than fear. The first human ship fired, missed on purpose. A challenge, the Black Fleet answered, and the sky cracked open. Lasers cut through space, explosions bloomed like dying stars. Human ships fell, so did alien ones. Sarah closed her eyes and stepped forward. She didn't unleash destruction, she bent probability. Shots curved, targeting failed, missiles hesitated, then chose differently. The battlefield turned chaotic, unpredictable, human. The arbiter screamed over command channels. What are you? Sarah opened her eyes and smiled. I'm the mistake you taught to love. Elias felt the shockwave as she reached her limit. Blood at her nose, hands trembling, he caught her. Held her upright. Stay with me, he whispered. She leaned into him, always chose him. The war had begun, not because of hatred, but because the galaxy had finally learned humans don't abandon their own, and neither did she. The war had begun in earnest, not across one system, not across one fleet, across dozens of worlds. Elias watched the feeds from the bridge, destroyed colonies, collateral damage, civilians fleeing. Sarah, he whispered. She didn't answer. She was always silent in these moments, the weight of her choices pressing down harder than any gravity. A transmission broke through. Human colony command. We've lost 2 stations. Priority civilians are dead. Elias' fists clenched. They trusted us. Sarah placed her hand over his. Everything we do has consequences, she said quietly. But doing nothing would have cost more. He looked at her, eyes wide. You're right, but she silenced him with a look. They moved from system to system, leading evacuations, protecting ships, rerouting attacks with precision. Every time the Black Fleet struck, Sarah bent the impossible, redirecting destruction, preserving life, but always at a cost. And with every victory, someone else paid. She had learned restraint in a cage. Now she learned sacrifice in the void. Elias finally spoke one night as they drifted near a fractured star. They're calling you a miracle, he said. She looked at him. I'm not a miracle. I'm a problem they can't control. And I'm your problem now, he replied. She gave him a faint smile. And you chose me. The next strike hit closer than before. A human convoy carrying children from a mining colony. She saw the missiles before sensors did. Time slowed, her powers flared. She could have destroyed the attackers, but she didn't. Instead, she calculated trajectories, using minimal force, guiding every missile past ships. The convoy survived, but a nearby moon fractured. Elias held her as they watched the fallout. They'll blame us, he said softly. They always do, she replied. They were exhausted, not just physically, but morally. Every life saved carried weight. Every life lost haunted them, and then a new message arrived, encrypted. Origin, Council High Command. Deliver Sarah immediately or humanity will be exterminated. No exceptions, Elias swallowed hard. They'll push us to the edge. She nodded. Then we must show them what humanity really is. A long pause, her eyes glowed faintly. You taught me about choice, she said, and now I will teach them about consequence. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but by standing with her, humans had begun to reshape everything. Not by violence alone, not by fear, but by refusing to abandon one another. Elias gripped her hand. Whatever comes next, I'll follow. She turned to him, voice barely above a whisper. Then hold tight, it's about to get worse. The Black Fleet loomed over the human colonies like a shadow stretching across the stars. They expected fear, panic, submission. Instead, they found resistance. Ships moved in unison, not as weapons, but as a statement. They were humans, ordinary people standing together. Elias piloted their small freighter through the chaos. Sarah beside him, her hands glowed faintly, energy weaving between ships, diverting attacks, controlling outcomes without destruction. She could have ended it all, destroyed the fleet. Wiped out the council, but that wasn't her way. Not now, not ever. She looked at Elias. What do? We fight for life, he said. Not to kill. The Black Fleet fired a barrage, trying to cut them off. Missiles streaked across space, targeting every vessel with lethal precision. Sarah extended her arms. Time slowed. Energy pulsed around her like rippling water. The missiles changed course. They veered harmlessly into empty space, not destroyed, redirected, neutralized. Every ship under human command pressed forward. A dozen colonies joined in, then more. The Black Fleet faltered. Their strategy relied on fear, and humanity refused to bend. Council sensors recorded it all. The untamable weapon, now Sarah, standing beside a human who had chosen to risk everything for her, and millions followed their lead. The Arbiter's voice trembled over comms. You cannot win, you are an anomaly. Sarah's response was quiet, deadly calm. I never asked to win, I asked you to see. A pause, then another. Systems began defecting. Allies abandoned the Council's orders. Colonies opened fire on the fleet, not to destroy, but to pressure withdrawal. Elias gripped her hand. They're giving in, she shook her head. They're not giving in, they're learning, and that takes longer than a war. The Council had no choice. Execution orders canceled, sanctions lifted. Black Fleet recalled. Humanity had survived, not through overwhelming firepower, but through courage, defiance, and unity. Sarah looked out across the stars. Her name echoed through systems. Not as a weapon, not as a tool, not as a curse, as a choice, a being who refused to be controlled. Elias smiled at her. You did it, he said softly. She shook her head. We did it. Together, for the first time, she felt something she had never known. Not control, not fear, not survival. Hope. Somewhere in the galaxy, those who had tried to control her realized the truth. Power is meaningless without respect. Fear is worthless against choice. And humanity doesn't give up on its own. Sarah turned toward Elias. Let's go home, she said. He nodded. And together they disappeared into the stars, not as hunted, not as weaponized, but as something new.